Hey guys and girls, hope you all having a great week. So I'm back today with another installment in my Story So Far video series. This one will focus on the main story, characters and plot points in the God of War series, and will aim to get you caught up and ready for the new God of War set for release on the 20th of April, which acts as a sequel to 2010's God of War 3. So without any further delay, let's get to it, shall we? God of War is set in an ancient Greece in an alternative reality where the Olympian gods, titans, heroes and monsters from Greek mythology roam the world. The main protagonist of the games is Kratos, a hot-headed Spartan warrior who is betrayed by the gods and spends much of the games trying to escape his dark and bloody past, seeking vengeance against those who have wronged him, leaving destruction and mayhem in his wake. To give you a little bit of background on Kratos, he was once a successful captain in the Spartan army who led his men to several victories, gaining in both power and notoriety. He did, however, soon meet his match on the battlefield in the form of a barbarian king who almost defeated him. Before the barbarian could strike the killing blow, Kratos called out to the god of war, Ares, whom he promised to serve if the god would spare his men and give him the power to destroy their enemies. Ares' response was powerful. Agreeing to Kratos' offer, Ares gifted him with the Blades of Chaos, a pair of chained blades seared to his flesh and forged in the depths of Tartarus. Equipped with this new powerful weapon, Kratos made short work of his enemy, decapitating the barbarian king brutally. Now a servant of the god of war, Kratos waged war at the behest of Ares for years, eventually leading an attack on a village occupied by worshippers of Athena. Unbeknown to Kratos, Ares had secretly transported his wife and daughter to the village, and caught up in his frenzied attack and blinded by his bloodlust, Kratos tragically struck down his family, killing both his wife and child. Ares had sought to manipulate the Spartan, believing that the act of killing his family would free Kratos from all earthly ties and forge a perfect warrior. Unfortunately, it backfired on Ares, and Kratos renounced his pledge to the god of war. The oracle of the village cursed Kratos, bonding the ashes of his dead family to his skin, turning it ash white and earning him the nickname Ghost of Sparta. This is pretty much where Kratos is at the start of the story. The story of God of War actually encompasses 7 games, but for the purposes of this video, we will cover the events of 6 main titles in chronological order of events rather than release date. They include God of War Ascension, God of War Chains of Olympus, God of War Ghosts of Sparta, God of War 2 and God of War 3. If you are interested in playing the God of War series, I recommend that you play them in this order. For those of you wanting a general overview of the story, however, and the main characters, let's move on. God of War Ascension takes place 6 months after Kratos killed his family, and 10 years before the events of the first released title God of War. It also takes place over a 4-week period. Ascension revolves around the Furies and Kratos' struggle to break his bond with Ares. For those of you unfamiliar with Greek mythology, the Furies are the guardians of honor and the bane of all traitors, who punish those they deem guilty. They were spawned from the eons-long war between the primordials, the beings who created the earth. Zeus often uses them to punish mortals and gods who have broken a bond or pledge. At the beginning of our story, Kratos is confronted by Orcos in the village of Kira, who warns Kratos that the visions he has been experiencing are mind tricks played on him by the Furies. He urges Kratos to find the Oracle of Delphi, who can reveal the truth behind his visions and help free him from the Furies' grasp. Kratos travels to the Temple of Delphi, and after solving a puzzle using giant mechanical pythons, gains access to the temple. There, he confronts the corrupted prophet Castor and his conjoined twin Pollux, who have usurped the oracle's position and are controlling who can and can't see her in exchange for gifts and favors. Kratos demands to see Aletheia, the oracle, but is refused an audience. Never being one to take no for an answer, a fight inevitably breaks out, and Kratos defeats Castor and Pollux, but not before the ground beneath the oracle gives way and she falls to her death. Now mortally wounded, with her dying breaths, she instructs Kratos to travel to Delos to retrieve the Eyes of Truth. Before leaving, Kratos kills Pollux brutally and takes the amulet of Ouroboros, which allows him to control time. The scene then cuts to Kira's harbour, where Kratos is about to board a vessel to Delos. Before departing, however, he encounters Orcus, who reveals that he is in fact the son of Ares and Alecto, the Queen of the Furies. Orcus explains that Ares made a child with the powerful Fury in the hope that their union would create the perfect warrior. He elaborates on Ares' plan, explaining that the god of war planned to overthrow Zeus with the help of the Furies and his perfect warrior son. Sadly, Orcus was a disappointment to Ares and wanted no part in his scheme. Ares' attention instead moved to Kratos when he called out for help against the barbarians, and Orcus, a Fury himself, was made Oathkeeper. He did not question the Furies until Ares tricked Kratos into killing his own family, and riddled with guilt decided to help the Spartan. Armed with this new knowledge, Kratos boards a ship to Delos, even more determined to break Ares' hold on him. Arriving at the island, Kratos explores the ruined statue of Apollo, but is attacked by the three Furies, Megaera, Tisiphone, and Alecto, and after a struggle is eventually captured. Orcus frees him and transports Kratos to another location. He gives the Spartan his oath stone and reveals that he and Aletheia the Oracle tried to warn Zeus of Ares and the Furies' plan, but was caught, and in retaliation, Orcus was tortured and the Furies took the Oracle's eyes as punishment. After a perilous trip back to Delos, Kratos uses the amulet of Ouroboros to restore the statue of Apollo and retrieve the eyes. Upon completing the trials of Archimedes, Kratos is ambushed and captured by the Furies again. He is imprisoned, chained, and tormented by the Furies for breaking his blood oath to Ares. The Fury Megaera tortures Kratos mercilessly, but he manages to break free and nearly pummels her to death. Megaera flees and Kratos chases her through the prison. He discovers that the prison is in fact Aegeon the Hecatoncheires, the first traitor of the Furies who broke a blood oath to Zeus and was turned into the prison of the damned as punishment. The Fury Tisiphone creates an illusion, trying to tempt Kratos away from his quest and her pursuit of her sister. He rejects and overcomes the illusion, faces off against Megaera and kills her, retrieving the amulet of Ouroboros. Tisiphone casts another illusion on Kratos, this time showing him the respect and honor he once had as a Spartan captain. Kratos quickly recognizes the illusion and rejects it by kicking the Fury off a ledge. Having retrieved the oath stone of Orcus, he comes across the scribe of Hecatoncheires, who reveals that the Furies were originally fair and just in their punishment, but devolved into ruthless beings because of Ares' influence. Continuing his pursuit of the Furies, Kratos reaches the door to Alecto's chambers. He faces another illusion cast by the Queen, this time showing him a vision of his wife and daughter. She tries to convince him that he can live peacefully within the illusion, reunited with his family, if he rejoins Ares, swearing loyalty to the god of war once again. But Kratos refuses, enraging Alecto and Tisiphone, who both attack him. Alecto transforms herself into a giant sea monster. During the fight, Kratos uses the Oracle's eyes to break through the Furies' illusions before killing them both brutally and destroying the prison of the damned. Kratos returns to Sparta and is met by Orcus. Orcus explains that the Spartan will never be free from Ares' bond unless he kills Orcus, the only remaining Fury. Kratos initially refuses, but Orcus pleads with him, begging him for an honorable death. Reluctantly, he kills Orcus. Once the Fury breathes his last, memories come flooding back to Kratos, along with the nightmares of his butchery of his wife and child. Pained by his memories, Kratos calls out to any remaining gods, beseeching them to release him of his nightmares in exchange for his service, and this is where Ascension ends. God of War Chains of Olympus takes place not long after. Kratos is at this point in service to the gods and is sent to the city of Attica to help defend it from the invading Persian army. He fights his way through the city, killing soldiers, slaying a giant basilisk, and besting the Persian king in battle. All seems well when suddenly Kratos observes the sun falling from the sky, plunging the world into darkness. As he fights his way through the city of Marathon, witnessing a black fog covering the world, Kratos hears a haunting flute melody, which he recognizes as a melody that was once played by his beloved deceased daughter, Calliope. As he approaches the temple of Helios, Athena, the goddess of wisdom and his mentor, appears before him and tasks him with finding the missing sun god. Explaining that Morpheus has caused many of the gods on Olympus to fall into deep slumber, she beseeches him to make haste. Helios' sister Eos appears before Kratos and informs him that the Titan Atlas has abducted her brother and advises the Spartan to seek the primordial fire, which will awaken the fire steeds of Helios, who will in turn lead him to the sun god. Having awakened them, the steeds take the Spartan to the underworld, where he has 2 encounters with Charon at the river Styx. Charon refuses Kratos' passage on his boat and initially defeats Kratos, banishing him to Tartarus. However, Kratos refuses to give in and fights his way through Tartarus and back to the ferryman, where he proceeds to destroy and kill him. The Spartan locates the temple of Persephone and confronts the queen of the underworld. He is given a choice: renounce his power and his quest and be reunited with his deceased daughter, but at a cost to mankind, or proceed with his mission. Kratos chooses to sacrifice his weapons and power and is reunited with Calliope. During their heartfelt reunion, he discovers that Persephone is embittered by Zeus's betrayal and her imprisonment in the underworld with her husband Hades. While distracted by Calliope, the Titan Atlas, under the instructions of Persephone, was using the power of Helios to destroy the Pillar of the World, which would also end Olympus. In a heart-rending moment, Kratos chooses to abandon Calliope and take back his power. Using the Blades of Chaos, he binds Atlas to the Pillar of the World he sought to destroy, forcing the Titan to hold the weight of the world on his shoulders, quite literally. Kratos then fights Persephone to the death, eventually striking a killing blow. A dying Persephone warns him that his suffering will never end, and Atlas warns him that eventually he will come to regret meeting the god and says elusively that they will meet again. Having saved the world and Olympus as well, Kratos rides the sun chariot back to the mortal world and into the sky. After seeing the sun return, he loses consciousness from the exertion and plummets to the ground. At the last moment, Kratos is saved by Athena and Helios, and Athena says cryptically,
"He'll live. They must."
The original God of War is set 10 years after the events of Chains of Olympus. Kratos has served the gods faithfully for all this time. The beginning of the game is set on the Aegean Sea, where Kratos is tasked to kill a Hydra by Poseidon that has been killing the merchants and sailors that navigate his seas. Having grown tired of his service and suffering, and still plagued by the nightmares of his past, Kratos summons Athena, shouting out in his frustration and demanding that the gods free him of his nightmares. Athena states that if he performs one final act, the murder of Ares, he will be forgiven for killing his family. We then cut to Ares, who is waging war on the city of Athens, out of hatred and jealousy of his sister Athena. We learn that Athena has assigned Kratos to kill the god of war because Zeus has forbidden divine intervention. Athena encourages Kratos to seek out the Oracle of Athens, who will be able to shed light on how to kill a god. Kratos fights his way through a war-torn Athens, and after a strange encounter with a gravedigger who encourages him to continue his task, he battles his way to Athens' oracle. Saving her life, she reads Kratos and is initially repulsed by his bloody past and shocked that the gods would send someone such as him to save Athens. Still, she reveals to Kratos a way to defeat Ares. He must seek out Pandora's box, a mythical artifact that when opened grants the power to kill a god. She directs him to the Desert of the Lost Souls, where Kratos meets Athena. Athena tells him that Pandora's box is hidden in a temple chained to the back of the Titan Kronos, a punishment by Zeus for the great war between the Titans and Olympian gods. Kratos summons Kronos and climbs the Titan for 3 days before reaching the temple's entrance. There, he overcomes an array of traps and an army of monsters to find the box. However, before he can open the box, Ares back in Athens, sensing the danger, throws a jagged pillar, impaling Kratos against the wall, and Kratos is left to scratch against the pillar in pain and frustration as he slowly bleeds out. The Spartan falls to the underworld, but refusing to give in, climbs over the fallen until he reaches a vantage point. Suddenly, a stone attached to a long piece of rope lands at his feet, and without hesitation, Kratos begins the long climb back to the mortal realm. Upon climbing out of the grave, he sees that it is the same gravedigger from earlier that has helped him. Kratos returns to Athens, recovering Pandora's box, opens it, and gains the power to kill a god. He faces off against Ares, and the two battle it out. At first, the battle is physical as they trade blows. The god of war, having bestowed his weapons on Kratos, rips the blades of chaos from his arms, weakening the Spartan and removing all his magic. The god then mentally tortures the Spartan, pulling him into an illusion where he has to relive the memory of killing his family, as Ares constantly mocks and ridicules him. While all seems lost, Kratos spots the blade of the gods and uses it to kill Ares. His task complete, Kratos begs Athena to release him. She tells Kratos that his sins are forgiven, but they cannot free him from his nightmares. Forsaken by the gods, Kratos throws himself from a cliff into the Aegean Sea, intent on ending his life and by extension his suffering. But Athena intervenes at the last moment and transports Kratos to Mount Olympus, where she offers to make him a god. Kratos accepts and is seen at the end of the game sitting on his throne as the new god of war. God of War Ghosts of Sparta is the fourth game in the series, set between the events of God of War and God of War 2, and explores Kratos' background, specifically his relationship with his brother. The game begins with a series of flashbacks. We learn that an oracle foretold that the demise of the Olympian gods would come not by the revenge of the Titans, who had been imprisoned after the Great War, but by a marked warrior. Zeus and Ares believed this warrior to be Deimos, the brother of Kratos, due to his strange birthmark. As a child, Ares, with Athena on hand, kidnapped Deimos. Kratos tried to save his brother, but was swept aside by the more powerful god of war, leaving a cut and scar across his right eye. Athena stopped Ares from killing Kratos, arguing that the boy is of no consequence and no threat to Olympus. As she leaves, she turns to Kratos and pleads,
"Forgive me."
Taken to Death's domain, Deimos was imprisoned and tortured by Thanatos, the god of death. In honor of his brother, Kratos marked himself with a red tattoo, identical to his brother's birthmark. When the game begins, Kratos has taken Ares' place as the new god of war on Mount Olympus. Still haunted by visions of his past, Kratos decided against Athena's advice to explore his past and travels to the Temple of Poseidon, located within the city of Atlantis. The sea monster Sailor attacks and destroys Kratos' vessel off the coast of Atlantis. After a series of skirmishes, Kratos eventually kills Sailor and reaches the temple. There, he finds his mother, Callisto. She tries to reveal the identity of his father, but before she can, is transformed into a hideous beast, and Kratos is forced to kill her. Before dying, Callisto thanks him and beseeches him to seek out Deimos in Sparta. Before leaving, Kratos encounters and frees the trapped titan Thera, which causes Methana volcano to erupt, destroying and sinking Atlantis. After battling Erinys, Thanatos' daughter, Kratos arrives in Sparta. He journeys to the Temple of Ares, where he encounters the spirit of his child self and learns that his brother is alive and that he must return to the sunken Atlantis and locate the domain of death. Having found the domain, Kratos finds and frees his imprisoned brother. However, Deimos is not happy to see him, blaming Kratos for failing to save and protect him as a child. He attacks him. Thanatos intervenes and takes Deimos to Suicide Bluff, the site where Kratos tried to commit suicide in God of War. Kratos saves Deimos and the two reconcile before Deimos joins the fight against Thanatos. Tragically, Deimos is killed during the fight, and Kratos ultimately kills Thanatos by himself. Kratos carries his brother's body and buries him next to his mother. Athena appears before him and begs forgiveness for her past actions and offers Kratos a full return to Olympus and a full godhood. Kratos rejects her offer and apology and angrily retorts,
"It is not over, Athena. The gods will pay for this."
After Kratos walks through a portal back to Olympus, we see Athena looking at him forlornly and stating,
Forgive me, brother.
God of War 2 continues pretty much straight on from where Ghost of Sparta left off. Kratos, the new god of war, is still haunted by the nightmares of his past and shunned by the other gods for his destructive ways. Ignoring Athena's warnings, he joins his Spartan army in an attack on Rhodes. During the battle, a giant eagle appears, drains him of his powers, and animates the Colossus of Rhodes. Zeus offers Kratos the blade of Olympus in order to defeat the statue, but it requires him to infuse the blade with the remainder of his godly power. Now mortal, Kratos defeats the Colossus but is mortally wounded. The eagle suddenly appears again and transforms into Zeus, the king of the gods. Zeus states that he was forced to intervene as Athena refused to do so. He offers Kratos a final opportunity to be loyal to the gods, swearing allegiance to the king of the gods himself, but Kratos refuses, and in retaliation, Zeus kills him and destroys the Spartan army. Now dead, again, Kratos is dragged to the underworld, but is saved by the Titan Gaia. She discloses to Kratos a little of Zeus's background as well as her own. She explains that Zeus is the son of the Titan Kronos. So fearful that his children would usurp him, Kronos chose to keep each child imprisoned in his belly. Zeus's mother, Rhea, refused to allow Zeus, her last child, to meet the same fate. She sent him away and tricked Kronos into thinking he had eaten the child. As a young boy, Zeus was raised and protected by Gaia, who nurtured in him a desire to free his brothers and sisters. However, a young Zeus eventually betrayed the Titans and returned to them with vengeance in his heart, blaming them all for the sins of one. This resulted in the Great War, a war between the Titans and Olympian gods, which the Titans eventually lost. Gaia instructs Kratos to find the Sisters of Fate, as only they have the power to alter time and prevent his death, allowing Kratos to gain his revenge on Zeus. Kratos climbs his way out of Tartarus and then, with the help of Pegasus, flies to the lair of Gaia's brother, Typhoon, who is not happy to see him. He ends up blinding Typhoon to escape and also meets and kills Prometheus, who is famous for giving mankind fire. From the fires of Olympus, Kratos gains new strength before fleeing the cave on the back of Pegasus. Arriving at the island of creation, home to the Sisters of Fate, Kratos fights and kills the hero Theseus to awaken the gigantic stone steeds of time, a gift from Kronos in an attempt to change his fate. Using the Steeds of Time, Kratos gains access to the island. There he meets and defeats several heroes, also seeking out the Sisters of Fate, including the undead barbarian king that Kratos had once slain, the Gorgon king, Perseus, and the mad Icarus. In a brutal move, Kratos actually rips the wings from Icarus's back, causing him to plunge to his death. Using the wings, Kratos encounters the imprisoned Titan Atlas, who still resents the Spartan for his actions in Chains of Olympus, the cause of Atlas's current predicament. After Kratos explains his intent to Atlas, the death of Zeus, and reveals that he is working with Gaia and the other Titans who also seek revenge on Zeus for their defeat in the Great War, Atlas agrees to help him. He reveals to Kratos that the key to defeating Zeus lies within the Blade of Olympus, which still contains all of Kratos' godly power, as well as the power to kill a god. He helps Kratos to reach the Palace of the Fates, where the Spartan eventually confronts two of the three Sisters of Fate, Lachesis and Atropos. He demands to use the Loom of Fate to change his past, and unsurprisingly, they refuse. Kratos fights and defeats the two sisters before confronting the third sister, Clotho, whom he also fights using her own traps against her and eventually killing the last sister. Now having acquired control of the Loom of Fate, Kratos uses it to travel back in time to the point at which Zeus betrayed him. He surprises Zeus and uses his opportunity to seize the Blade of Olympus and incapacitate the King of the Gods. Athena intervenes, imploring Kratos to stop, arguing that destroying Zeus will ultimately destroy Olympus. Kratos does not care. He goes for the killing blow, but Athena jumps in between, impaling herself on the blade and sacrificing herself to save Zeus. Kratos is horrified at her actions, asking her why she would do this. She responds that she couldn't allow Kratos to kill his own father, revealing that Kratos is actually the son of Zeus. Kratos rejects the idea and throws back,
No, I have no father.
As Athena dies, he declares the rule of the gods at an end and travels back in time to rescue the Titans just before their defeat in the Great War. At the end of the game, Kratos returns with the Titans, and the gods of Olympus look down, watching as the Titans and Kratos climb Mount Olympus. Kratos looks up at Zeus in hatred, shouting,
I bring the destruction of Olympus!
And this is where the story finishes at the end of God of War 2. God of War 3 picks up pretty much immediately after the end of God of War 2. The opening scenes show Kratos, Gaia and the other Titans climbing Mount Olympus. We see the Olympian gods look down and join in the fight. Poseidon himself launches a counterattack against Gaia and Kratos, but after a lot of fighting is ultimately killed savagely by Kratos. His death causes the oceans to flood all of Greece. Reaching the peak, Kratos and Gaia move to attack Zeus, but are ultimately driven back by the god, who using his thunder abilities knocks them off the mountain. Gaia clings to the mountainside as she desperately tries to pull herself up. Kratos in the scuffle loses his grip and cries out to Gaia to help him. Gaia refuses to save Kratos, calling him nothing but a pawn in the Titans' quest to kill Zeus. As Kratos falls to his death, he screams Gaia's name in anger and hatred. Kratos falls into the river Styx, where he loses the blade of Olympus. The souls of the underworld weaken him and ruin the blade of Athena. Climbing from the river, he is confronted by the spirit of Athena, who we know had previously sacrificed herself to save Zeus from Kratos. She tells Kratos that her sacrifice had brought her to a higher existence, and she now sees truths that she did not see before. She states that as long as Zeus reigns, there is no hope for mankind. She gives him the Blades of Exile and says that to kill Zeus, he must quench the flame of Olympus. After finding the three judges of the underworld and the chain of balance, Kratos encounters the spirit of Pandora, whom he mistakes for his dead daughter Calliope. Refusing to help the child, he continues his quest. After encountering the Olympian blacksmith Hephaestus and recovering the blade of Olympus, he kills Hades, which releases the souls of the underworld. When he considers searching for the soul of Calliope, Athena reminds Kratos of his quest, and he leaves the underworld, arriving at Olympia. There he finds the wounded Gaia, who calls for help. He severs her arm, causing her to fall from Mount Olympus to apparent death. Kratos continues his ascent, murdering powerful foes that include the Titan Perses and the god Helios, which plunges all of Greece into eternal darkness. This leads to an encounter with Hermes, who mocks Kratos for his past sins. The Spartan chases the god, who leads him to the chamber of the flame. Kratos discovers that Pandora's box is in the flame of Olympus and is key to the success of his quest, as it was in God of War. Athena appears, telling Kratos that the flames around the box can only be quelled by Pandora. Kratos then continues his chase of the overconfident Hermes, whom he eventually catches and kills, releasing a plague on Greece. At the Forum, he has an audience with a drunken Hera, queen of the gods, who ignores his request for Pandora's location and summons Hercules. After discussing his jealousy of his half-brother, arguing that Kratos was Zeus's favourite son, having been made the new god of war, Hercules attacks Kratos and is killed. Kratos then encounters Aphrodite, who is indifferent to his war in Olympus and is more interested in the pleasures that he can give her. She leads him to her estranged husband, Hephaestus, through Hyperion's Gate, a teleportation device. The blacksmith sends Kratos to Tartarus on a suicide mission to retrieve the Orphelos stone so that he can forge a new weapon for the Spartan. Kratos finds Kronos, kills the Titan for the stone, and returns to Hephaestus. After forging the weapon, Kratos reveals that he is looking for Pandora. The god cries out, "Stay away from her!" and tries to kill Kratos himself, but the Spartan kills Hephaestus easily. With his dying breaths, Hephaestus claims that he was only trying to protect his daughter Pandora, who was imprisoned in the labyrinth after Kratos opened her box. Reusing the Hyperion Gate, the Spartan travels through Hera's guardians, where he kills the taunting goddess, ending all plant life in Greece, and makes his way to the labyrinth to find Pandora. The imprisoned architect Daedalus tells Kratos to unite the labyrinth. Completing this task, Kratos fights his way through the aerial puzzle and rescues Pandora, who tells him to break the chain of balance so the labyrinth can be raised and so she can reach her box. Neutralizing the three judges and breaking the chain, Kratos raises the labyrinth and Pandora tries to enter the flame of Olympus. Kratos argues with her, saying that they will find another way without sacrificing her life. Zeus intervenes and fights Kratos. After a brief battle, Kratos makes a heart-rending decision to let Pandora go as she sacrifices herself and quenches the flame. Flame now gone, Kratos opens Pandora's box, only to find it empty. Kratos attacks the mocking Zeus. Gaia returns and tries to kill them, but they escape through a gaping wound in her chest, where they continue their battle. Gaia is killed when Kratos impales Zeus against her heart with the blade of Olympus, which apparently also kills Zeus. When Kratos recovers the blade and tries to leave, he is attacked by Zeus's spirit and loses all of his weapons in the process. Before Zeus can land a fatal blow, Kratos is saved by Pandora during a journey into his psyche. With help from the spirits of his wife Lysandra and daughter Calliope, Kratos forgives himself for his past sins. After discovering the power of hope, he regains consciousness and beats Zeus to death with his bare hands, thus ending the reign of the Olympian gods. Athena reappears, demanding that Kratos return what she thinks he took from Pandora's box. She refuses to believe that the box was empty, explaining that when Zeus sealed the evils of the world in the box, she placed her power of hope in it, foreseeing that it would eventually be opened. Athena realizes that when Kratos opened the box to defeat Ares, the evils escaped and infected the gods, while Kratos was imbued with hope, which enabled him to kill Ares. She tells Kratos to return her power, saying that she knows how to use it to rebuild what had been destroyed. Distrusting Athena and tired of being used as a pawn, Kratos refuses, saying his vengeance has ended. He impales himself with the blade of Olympus and releases Hope's power to heal all that he had destroyed. An angry Athena pulls the sword from him, saying that he has disappointed her and leaves empty-handed. Near death, Kratos collapses as Athena leaves. In a post-credits scene, a trail of blood leads away from an abandoned blade of Olympus, with Kratos' whereabouts unknown, and this is how the saga ends. The new God of War is set long after the events of God of War 3, and it will be interesting to learn how Kratos survived and what became of him and Greece after the chaos brought about by his war with the Olympian gods. So there you have it. There is everything that you need to know to get you ready for the new God of War. Hope you all found this video interesting and informative. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys later. Happy gaming!